Right, today we're going to complete the square to write our equation of the parabola in vertex form. And there's going to be a lot of similarities to what we did with circles. So hopefully seeing it again will make you feel more confident about it. So the first thing we're going to do, in parabolas we don't have the x squareds and the y squareds. So we're not really separating the x's and the y's. So we're going to, but we need to group them a little bit. So we're going to rewrite it, whoops, don't want to put the y squared, just y equals, and then we're going to have x squared plus 10x plus blank, and then we're going to scoot over this 6 and then put another blank. Okay, so how are we going to figure out what goes in the blank? So I'm going to look at this middle number here. Half of 10 is 5, and then 5 squared is 25. So that's what number is going to go here. Now, I need to keep this equation balanced. So technically what I need to do is add 25 to this side. But then I'm going to have to move that number back again. Well, that's kind of silly. So if I have positive 25 on the other side, on the left side, to get it to the right side, I need to subtract 25. Okay, so this looks really weird, but positive 25 and negative 25 cancel out. So this equation is still balanced. We're just going to be writing it in a different form. All right, so now I'm going to look at the first part of the equation and factor that. What two numbers multiply 25 and add to 10? Well, I don't really need to concern myself about that. I can just take half of 10 and get 5. So this is going to be, oh, and this is our final answer. So I guess I can write it over here. We're going to say y equals, and then this part is going to factor to x plus 5, x plus 5. So we're going to write x plus 5 squared. And now we're going to add the 6 and negative 25, which would give us negative 19. Our vertex, the opposite of what's in the parentheses, negative 5, and then the same as what's at the end, so we get negative 19. That's it. All right, let's try this again. So the next one, we're going to rewrite it so we have our y's. We're going to have the x is grouped, and then leave a blank, and then we'll have the negative 4, and we're going to have another blank. Okay, let's see if we can figure out the number. Half of negative 8 is negative 4. And then if I take negative 4 and square it, it's going to give me positive 16. Now if I put another positive 16 over here in the second blank, that's adding 32 to the equation. That's not going to keep it balanced. But to keep it balanced, I'm going to put a negative 16 there. All right, now to write our final answer. We're going to factor that. Two numbers that multiply to positive 16 and add to negative 8 would be negative 4 and 4. So I'm going to have x minus 4 squared, or I can just take half of negative 8. That gives me that number there as well. Now combine numbers at the end. Negative 4 and negative 16 is negative 20. That makes my vertex 4, negative 20. And we're done. Okay. This is kind of the same, but now it's going to change up just a little bit because that leading coefficient is not that invisible 1. So we're going to have to factor it out, but we only factor it out of the first two terms. So look how this is going to write. We're going to write y equals, and then we're going to take out the 3, and that leaves us with x squared minus 2x plus blank. Then we're going to have the 8, and then plus a blank over here. Okay, let's see if we can figure out this number. So I'm going to take half of this number. Half of negative 2 is negative 1. If I take negative 1 and square it, that will give me positive 1. So I'm going to put positive 1 here. Now your instinct is then to put a negative 1 here, but that's not quite right. Okay, you're right that it needs to be the opposite, but I didn't really just add a positive 1. I added a 3 times 1, which is 3. So I added a positive 3 to the left, or on this side, so I need to add a negative 3 over here. Now when I rewrite it, I'm going to have y equals 3 times x minus 1 squared. I knew that because I'm factoring this. The two numbers that multiply to 1 and add to negative 2 are negative 1 and 1, or I could just take half of negative 2. Then add my numbers again. 8 negative 3 is 5. That makes my vertex 1, 5. All right, let's try that process again. So I'm going to have my y's. Since this leading coefficient is not a 1, I'm going to factor out the 2, but only from the first two terms. Then I have my 9, and then the blank. Okay, let's see if we can figure out the number that goes on the blank. Half of 10 is 5, and then I square 5 and I get 25. So I'm going to put 25 here. We are not going to put negative 25 here. That's not what we really added. We really added 2 times 25, which is 50. So to balance it out, I have to do negative 50. Okay, now when I go to write my equation, I'm going to have y equals, I'm going to factor this part. Half of 10 is 5, so it's going to factor to x plus 5 squared. And then I'm going to add these together. 9 and negative 50 is negative 41. My vertex is going to be negative 5, negative 41, and I'm done. One last one. Okay, the leading coefficient again is not that positive 1, so I'm going to have to factor out the 2. But I'm only going to factor out the 2 of the first 2 terms. But it's actually not just a 2, it's a negative 2. So when I take out the negative 2, I'm going to leave with positive x squared, but positive 8x divided by this negative 2 is going to give me negative 4x plus blank. Then I have the minus 6 plus blank. Okay, let's see if we can fill in the numbers. Half of negative 4 is negative 2. If I take negative 2 and square it, it's going to give me a positive 4. But I didn't add 4, I added negative 2 times 4, which is negative 8. So to balance it, I have to put a positive 8 here. Okay, factor this part. We can do that pretty easily. So we have y equals negative 2, and then this factors to x minus 2 squared, and negative 6 plus 8 is 2, and your vertex is positive 2 here. There's your x, there's your y, positive 2 here. Okay, I'm just realizing on number 4, I forgot about this 2 that I factored out. I did not write it in front. It should go here. I apologize. There you go. Done with your notes.